What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be installing the OPT7 Aura Motorcycle Kit. I'm going to run you through everything you need, how to do it. I want to get your bad boy shining bright. So let's get it. First, let's take a look at what we got inside of the box. Let's give it an open. There's a lot that goes on inside of this box. All right, let's take a look at the light kit box and see what comes inside. Oh, there's a lot that's going on in here. All right, looks like we got some zip ties. That'll be good. We'll be able to zip tie it to the motorcycle, to the fairings, or any other parts that don't heat up and won't melt this, but this is good, always good to have. We got some connectors, adapters to be able to connect to the LEDs and to the power source. Tons of these, that's good. We have some heat shrink. We got some, we got a fuse, that one, I don't know what amp that is, gotta check that. And then we have some adapter pieces to be able to connect male ends together, so that's good. We got some adhesive backed Velcro strips. In this small little box, let's see what we got in here. We have the dope OPT7 LED controller with all the colors, all of the settings, the strength indicators, the on-off buttons, and then the RBG, you know, the base RBG colors, the white. It's great. Looks good. Feels solid. Now we have the OPT7 keychain to be able to cycle through the light kit and the control box as you go. That's pretty dope. Can't wait to add that to the keychain. A little, very, very small, what is that, Phillips head? Yeah, Phillips head screwdriver. I don't know if you guys can see that. And then we have some connector shrink wrap. These ones are pretty big. All right, let's get into the box with the smart color LEDs. All right, this is the important stuff, the real important stuff. All right, comes with an adhesive booster. So this is probably just an alcohol wipe. You clean the surface, it helps prep it, get rid of any oil and grease in the area so that the adhesive sticks cleaner and lasts longer. All right, these are the LEDs. These look pretty good. Adhesive back LEDs. This one came with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I got the 10 LED strip kit. So this is dope. All right, this is the power harness that connects to the battery terminal. So you got the positive, the negative, and the control box. And then it's a pretty long line. All right, so we have another harness. This one connects to the LEDs and to the other power harness. So this is the direct connection, the power controller box. Great, so it's pretty straightforward. And then look at this little card. Need support. There's instructions online, other video tutorials, but definitely just watch mine, and then some support and contact. All right, so let's start off with the A side power harness. It comes with connections to the battery terminal, a little fuse box, a little controller, and then a power adapter male that connects to the B side power harness that has a control box, another power line, the power adapter, and then 4 lines that will connect to the LEDs and be placed throughout the bike. So the easiest first step comes with a little cap on there on the A harness. Take it off, plug it into the B side power harness. There you go. Then you have the first connection. Now, on the B harness, you have 4 main lines. You have 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, what I'm recommending is that you have 1 line dedicated to a portion of the bike. So, from right to left, this would be front of the bike, this would be left side, this would be right side, this would be back of bike. There are a couple different ways you could do it, wire it, but that's how I'm going to do it. And I'll give you guys feedback over time of how it worked out. But from there, what you're going to do is you're going to go to one of the other power harness types. And this is the Y splitter power line. So my kit came with 5 of them. I only need 4. There will be an extra that you can use wherever you want to, or you don't have to use it at all. But there's this line type. There is a medium extension length, long extension lengths. These are much longer, couple more inches than the mediums. Then there are the extra long extension lengths to reach further ends of the bike. You may end up needing them, you may not. And then there are the actual LEDs that we're going to connect and then place on the bike with adhesive backs. And these are the LEDs, the adhesive back LEDs. My kit has 10 of them. And these will be actually, obviously the light source, and we will stick these onto the bike when we get out there and actually start applying them. So, per the instructions, you're going to take the Y splitter and you're going to connect them all directly to the power box lines. So, it's very simple. You have the male end, and then you have female ends. You're going to connect the Y splitter female end into the power box male end. Just like this. Boom. Connection started. If you end up making a mistake, you can easily take them apart by clipping these 2 prongs. Boom. Pressing them in. And then clipping this prong out, and you could take it out easily. So, boom. So, we're going to start off by putting Y splitters on all 4 of these so that there's more adjustability into how you wire your bike. All right, so now we go from 4 lines all the way out to 8 lines, 2, 4, 6, 8. So from here, I'm going to connect 8 out of 10 of these long lines, all to each end of the Y harness, and then we'll have 8 pretty long lines. And again, if your bike ends up being a little bit different, that's fine. You just wire it according to the length that you need on your for your bike. All right, so now I have 8 pretty long lines. Then what I'm going to do, the next step from there is going to be start connecting your first batch of LEDs. It's the same connection type, male and female. Make sure not to take off any adhesive backs by accident, because then you're going to decrease its stickability onto the bike. So just be careful with them. Controller box, Y splitters, long lines, straight to the LEDs. After your 8 LEDs, you have some adjustability built in with these 2 extra. You can use them, not use them, keep them as spares. It's up to you, really. But there's some adjustability. You have extra lines, extra ways that you can configure it. But let's start off with just these 8. All right, that's what's inside of the OPT7 Aura Motorcycle Light Kit. Let's get right into installing it. Okay, so the next step of the project is to get to the underside of the seats. You do this by sticking your key in the undertail, unlocking both seats, taking the middle and the rear seat off, and then you'll have access to the battery. Once you have access to the battery, use a Phillips head screwdriver to loosen the terminals. That way we can connect the LEDs before we place them to make sure that they all work. We don't want to place them and then they end up not working, or one is busted or needs to be switched out for one of the other LED strips. So install the positive with the positive and the negative with the negative, and then tighten the terminals all back nice and tight, and then turn the light switch on, and boom, there you go. If you see, just testing them, making sure they all have power, they're all lighting up. And then from there, once you confirm that they're all working, we'll move on to the next step. From here, disconnect the test lines, leave the battery cables ready to go, and then we'll move on to the next step. So find this elastic band and this particular screw, loosen the elastic band, undo this screw to this bracket, and that's going to be where we place down the controller box. Take your controller box, set it in there nice and smooth from either side, And then make sure that you then tighten the screw down. It's a Phillips head screw. So yeah, tighten down, place it. That fits there perfectly. This is not intended, but it just happens to work very well. And I feel like that'll be the best spot for this box. Make sure to move all the wires to the back side of the bike so nothing is in your way, and then we can sort the wires as we mentioned earlier for front, left, right, and back. But put the elastic band back, start sorting out your wires so that you can plan out which way which set of wires are going to go. Again, the back, left, front, and right will all get their own line. Feed the back and the left to one side, to the left, and then the front and the right on the other side. So in the crevice of this seat, there's actually a fairing that has enough room for us to start passing the lines through. So what you're going to do is you're going to start feeding the first two lines through this little crevice. Under the fairing, you should be able to reach the power lines, and then you should be able to feed them through this little gap where there's bolts and pieces, the fairing being held to the frame. So feed the lines through there, and then we're going to start staging stuff to connect stuff properly to the frame. Again, in that crevice of the battery seat area, you're going to feed the front line first. You're going to end up adding some extension to that line so that it can reach the front of the bike. Then you're going to feed the right side power lights through that crevice next as well, so that they all can fit through, and you may have to add an extension piece or two to that line so that it can properly seat where you want it on your fairings, the frame, and up in the front. And we'll get to that very shortly, but keep feeding them. As you add more LEDs, it's going to get a little tight, so just, you know, you may have to finagle and finesse your way through this part so that you can get them all through. Just be careful that the adhesive back doesn't the adhesive back cover doesn't come off, and nothing gets stuck or sticky or does something you don't want it to do. So just take your time at this part, feed it through. This is going to take 10-15 minutes. And make sure that some of the connections won't come off. If they do, use it as an opportunity to add extension lines to this part so that you can have more length. So yeah, look, they're sticking through. You're gonna pull them and then add lines like I said. Okay, so you're gonna make sure you add the long cords, the longest extension cords to the front line so that you can properly feed and run that up to the front of the bike. This is the one that comes in like a little bundle. Attach it, pull the extra cord through the front to the front, and then from there we can start to frame and stage the front as if it was going to be held down soon with zip ties, which we'll get to shortly. So pull that extra cord through, feed it to the frame, along the frame, and then you're going to run the LEDs up through the front of the bike to the inside compartment where the handlebars and the speedometer are. It's very important that you do not end up putting this LED wire anywhere that will affect the turning radius of the bike, anywhere that can get caught or snagged on something when turning, because then you're just going to break the line or potentially get into an accident with that. So make sure you're not doing that, because that would be a pain in the butt. All right, so feed the cord up to the fork area, and then we're going to attach it to the inside fairings that help protect and cover the fork and the wire harnesses up in the front underneath the speedometer. So feed the cord across and feed it through and behind the fork so it doesn't get in the way of anything, and make sure that it's well protected, and like I said before, it doesn't affect the turning radius of the fork, so or any of the other electrical harnesses on the bike. Alright, so this part of the video, we're just adding in more extension line. And this is, again, just to make sure that, you know, things are exactly where they need to be. They can reach the parts of the bike where you wanted to line them up. So this part is pretty straightforward. add more extension line as needed, and just play around and figure out where the LEDs are going to be sitting. Alright, once you have enough length of line, then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to attach it into the front fairing portion of the bike behind the fork so it doesn't get in the way when you're turning or moving the front wheel. So you don't want anything getting caught or breaking or affecting your turning. So just make sure it's all wired properly and not in the way of anything important. Alright, once you have them in position, you can go ahead and clean the area with the alcohol wipes and then take off the adhesive back and start sticking them in place. Ultimately, I ended up using some electrical tape and then even duct tape down the road to help them stick in this location. You don't have to use it, but unfortunately my LED kit is 4 years old and I never used it for a couple years, so the adhesive is a little bit dry and not sticking. So from there, once you have everything wired, you can start zip tying things in place to the frame. That way they stick and that you don't run into any issues with anything getting snagged or hanging off. Make sure you zip tie everything tight. Make sure everything is connected in an area that won't affect any of the operations of the bike. You don't want anything breaking or getting damaged from the LEDs or the power cords. But you also want to make sure that you can access the connections so that you can wrap them with electrical tape or shrink wrap down the road, and we'll get to that step later as we go. When you have the front and the right line in place, pull back any extra wire so that you can zip tie it and set it down into the battery area, and make sure that it's not in the way of anything else or hanging loose and getting snagged up on stuff. So zip tie it up, push it to the sides of the battery or back into the little storage area, and it should be good to go. Next, you're going to start working on the left and the back wires. You're going to end up adding some extension lines in, making them longer so things can reach like you did with the right side. And then when you get to the back portion a little bit later on in the video, you really don't need to add many extensions. You just got to make sure things are routed properly, but just make sure you have things long enough to reach where you want them to go. Alright, here I'm just finalizing the right side of the light kit, attaching it to the frame, making sure it fits in place. Since I don't have fairings on the right side because they're broken, I had easy access to do all that. Again, you might have to take off your right or left side fairing in order to really get things the way you want it. But in this case, since I don't have one, again, it was easy and I didn't have to do much but attach them on the frame or directly on the fairing where they won't break, snap, or snag anywhere, and then eventually zip tie it down. And always make sure you put all the extra cord back, so that's not in the way of anything that may move or be part of the actual bike's operation. Alright, from here, it looks like the right side is just about done. So then we're going to start and head over to the left side of the bike and do essentially the same process that we did on the right side. So in this case, I actually have to take off the left side of the left fairing so that I can actually get access to the frame and where I want to put the lights. I'm actually going to attach one light to the frame and one light to the inside of my left fairing. So it's the same process. Feed it through, make sure you can reach it, make sure that there's enough length on the cord, and then you know, I stick it onto the inside of the fairing. Alright, so here I'm sticking it on the left side of the fairing after I feed it through. And I just make sure that it gets a good stick. I also add a little bit of zip tie to one of these little areas where I can loop it through on the fairing so that it stays, because again, my adhesive is old since I didn't end up using my kit for 4 years. Alright, once you're all done, tighten the fairings back, and then you should be good to go, and you can work on the back. So on the left side of the battery, there's a little crevice where you can feed the lines and the LEDs through so that you can get it to the underside of the bike. Now there's a couple of ways you could attach the LEDs to the underside of the bike. In this case, I'm attaching it to the upper portion of the undertail. So in this case, I'm going to end up using some electrical tape, some duct tape. I don't show the duct tape in the video because I ended up seeing that the electrical tape stuck like shit, so I had to come back later on and stick some more duct tape. But definitely use some black duct tape or whatever color duct tape you want to help hide the cords and attach it to the bike so that they end up sticking a little bit better. Now again, my LEDs are old, so I had to do this. If I had a new kit from this year or whatever, I'm pretty sure they would stick fine. But in this case, again, my kit's old, so I had to use electrical tape and duct tape to make sure that it holds up there. Now, once you have everything in place, you're supposed to technically heat shrink the heat shrink that comes in the kit, but for some reason I had a hard time making them fit. Maybe they were old and didn't fit. So what I ended up doing with all the electrical connection parts is I ended up using electrical tape to waterproof them so water doesn't damage the LEDs or the connectors, because they're not 100% waterproof. Only I think the power box and the controller is per the manual and the instruction installation guide that's out there, which I'll actually have linked down below so you guys can take a look at it and read it as well, but it's not the most informative thing. So I have the LEDs on the top portion of the undertail. Again, I'm using duct tape and electrical tape to take care of the connections and help it stick to the top. Again, you can use the heat shrink that comes in the kit. You just light it with a lighter and then it should shrink and cover the connection in full, but again, mine didn't work, so yeah, didn't go with it. I personally think electrical tape ends up being a better solution to covering and protecting the electrical components and connections anyways. So I would recommend going with electrical tape just because it's a little bit better in my opinion, and it's a little bit more form-fitting than improper heat shrink will, is. So yeah, doing it that way is better than using a process that won't work well for you. So it's up to you which one you go with, but I went with electrical tape. Alright, so here's how the undertail looked. Again, I attached electrical tape in this shot, but then I ended up adding duct tape down the road to make sure that it holds even better, because the electrical tape isn't that strong and adhesive. So I attached it at the end. I attached it to this little portion that's vertical, and then after that I cut off all the excess zip tie length so that nothing is poking out or looks stupid or goofy. Just be careful not to cut any other electrical cords or anything like that and damage something you didn't mean to. So use scissors. I'm using a knife, but scissors are probably a little bit better. This ended up taking me a couple of hours to do, so if you plan it out using the information you got in this video, it may really help you speed up the process. And then once you're done, you want to make sure you actually connect the power to the terminal. So get those screws, connect the positive with the positive and the negative with the negative. It's very important that the little one button controller that's on harness A or B, you keep in an area where you can readily get to it, because the LED kit can drain your bike and have a parasitic draw on it. So just make sure that you have it turned off when you're not actually using it, because it will drain your battery and it's a whole headache and pain in the butt. So yeah, that's about it. Alright, so once you have everything finalized, check the controller, take this little plastic piece out, and then from there what you're going to do is just test the LEDs, make sure everything is cycling through the colors, make sure no wires are sticking out anywhere, make sure the control boxes and everything are hooked up. If you want to attach that little red line that ends up being attached to brakes, you can do that. I didn't do that, I don't need it, so I'm just going to leave it like that. But just make sure nothing's in the way, nothing can snag, nothing can damage any of the components. Make sure the battery connection is on tight. And yeah, that's just about that. It's a good little project to do one afternoon. It ends up looking real good. In this case, I'm going to be using green as my main color, but cycle through everything, test it out, see what looks good, enjoy it. It's a fun little add-on to the bike. It's not that expensive, and it makes the bike look really cool and have another experience, to make everything a little bit more fun on the bike. So yeah, enjoy your LED kit. You don't necessarily even have to go with the OPT7 brand. You can go with whatever one works for you, but I enjoyed this OPT7 kit. It was a very thought out and thoroughly designed kit. The LEDs look good. They're really bright at night, so yeah, go with it, man. Enjoy it. It was fun making the video. Took me all day, but I think it really came out nice afterwards, and hopefully I'll come out with a little video next after this one, just going over a little night ride I did and how the LEDs actually looked at night, which I think they look pretty good. Unfortunately, I had to have somebody else help me shoot the night ride, because it's a little bit complicated to get third-person view on a bike without like a 360 camera or anything like that. But yeah, when you're all set, put the seats back on, test everything, make sure you're good to go. And yeah, that's it, boys. Appreciate the video. Alrighty, guys, thanks for watching the video. Hopefully it helped. Be sure to like and subscribe, and deuces!